7. Most governments invite power and fortune-mad executives and legislators to take campaign cash bribes from similar rapacious businesses to spring thousands of times more cash from your compulsory taxes to bloat their public contract bonanzas, usually by selling stuff deadly dangerous to us. Leaders attracted to this filthy system often are hurt all to help me sociopaths themselves. Speaking of criminal mobster politicians, what did history's most corrupt, evil American president do for power? He murdered at least 200,000 of his own innocent citizens, deliberately infecting tens of millions with COVID by secretly withholding emergency early pandemic stopping aid to opposite political party governors of states with exploding hospitals. Secret sabotage to get them blamed for the Holocaust, then winning him a second term. It didn't work, just caused a giant chunk of our 1.2 million as of February 2024 COVID death toll. My source, the Vanity Fair research article. Feel free to vote back his next genocide plot. What else did history's most corrupt president do? He hired a new EPA director to fully sabotage every American's environmental protection to only favor his biggest bribers and top dog polluters. This particular president's crimes I describe, including mass murder and abuse for power, because such monstrous criminals invariably rise to the top of 100% corrupt governments, always allowed to sell 100% of government services to the highest bidder. No matter how many thousands, millions, and billions they intend to hurt and kill with such favor, money, and power. When your law prevails, candidates given only equal ad time will be forced to win votes with just smarter love and care than the opponent may offer. Then good, decent, public-loving men and women, not opportunistic, thieving, kill for money, big lie for votes jackals, will win elections and set about negotiating your swords into plowshares treaty. You'll win public campaign finance to save our world and your family. I guarantee it. One more rotten president story. His second term was in big danger from voters enraged by his crimes, and his opponents happened to heavily use mail-in ballots. Well, that's easy. Just hire a new postmaster general pledged to destroy thousands of high-speed mail sorting machines. Then hammer rules that stop all ballot counting on election day. Then narrow loser instead wins easily. Oops, they kicked my ass by 7 million votes. Better send 6,000 rioters to stop the winner from getting electoral votes certified on January 6th, forcing my fake electors to be counted instead. We stopped him, thank God. The bribery system begs wolves like this to attack. Our dying world needs honest, democratic government of the people, by the people, and for the people to survive. Abe just talked about it. You're going to have to institute it, do it, win it. Postscript. Postmaster Jolly still runs the post office. My out-of-state mail takes 2 weeks when it's not entirely lost, that is. And the cult leader monster paid lawyers $50 million straight from his campaign cash loophole to let him steal it for any nefarious personal power purpose, such as staying out of jail so he can slam us in there instead. Now let's spotlight Supreme Court filth. Most of this century's Big Nine black robes were vetted and selected by the Federalist Society. Essentially a $450 million private bribe collecting club, raking it in from fat cats with a single agenda. You bullshit authorities pick only players who will always make us big dogs truly gigantic, with your supreme careers always crushing the 99% already powerless little puppies. So how did the very biggest supreme fatties respond once even porkier Pauls voted them on the bench? By destroying most unmoneyed voters' rights, specifically gutting our Voting Rights Act. Then, with their Citizens United ruling, ripping open every donation spigot, including billions of hidden from all dark money, ensuring our next 50 years of pollution and war-enriched oligarchy. Rule by small, high-power groups, never again the long-gone democracy's majority. Now, 96% of incumbent American federal legislators crush all challengers with expensive commercial overload, drowning our brains in war is peace and pollution is safe lies to rival the Nazis' big lie that all Jews and all Europe must be killed for the glory and purity of the 1,000-year Reich. Our corrupt Supreme Court plays the same game. Citizens United was, in secret, bosses united against citizens. One fully corrupted political party votes nearly 100% for only those bosses. Indeed, their bosses, their financial puppet masters, as my every speech proves. You figure out which party that is, then add a few members to the other party, only moderately less bought off by another pack of private business public thieves too. Now grab your garden shears and chop off every poison puppet's jerkin strings. How? Simple. Break link 1 of your own onrushing doomsday chain. Outlaw every single private gift. Actually bribe dollar handed to every no longer public, now private servant of the 1% richest who conspire to multiply their wealth by stealing your taxes, your safety, your future, and then your life. Okay, back to our hot laborers' water rights story. National legislation to countermand 47 states' failure to guarantee outdoor worker water break rights. Also to blot out the Texas governor's stinking signature on the foul law reversing Texas City's rescue of workers now dying of heat stroke. Is proposed by the slightly cleaner party a single vote ahead in the Senate only. So if you do not work locally, statewide, and nationally for the political party that you find evidence to believe may favor a bit cleaner public care, a touch less ruled by their 1% most generous TV political propaganda buyers, and even more fatally, you decide not to promote every survival law that my speeches and yours hammer, then hurry to get your affairs in order. Just one question. For who? Any earthly survivors that you imagine will outlast you? just not including your equally doomed wife, husband, kids, parents, and friends too. Close to 100% of American-style corruption is at least attempted in all but a few nations. No one else can stop it. Weapons always come with rules, invariably people and world-destroying consequences. The liars and thieves coercing you to cough up your taxes for unnecessary foreign attack wars bullshit you. These TNT and nuclear bombs are only to frighten 50 other nations with more world carnage, forced not to use theirs. That's how we keep the peace with our world arms race. They count on you not to ever hear of and evaluate 10 and 10,000 year history of every weapon murdering ever more folks everywhere, 1 billion and counting. Rule number 1, Parkinson's Law. World arms sales can go wrong and will. World Holocaust. Now let's talk about bombs, nuclear or TNT, packed on missiles or dropped from planes. For every weapons depot or menacing brigade hit in self-defense, Army leaders deliberately blast thousands of innocents' homes off the map, with residents inside, of course. Most every inhabitant is either blown to bits or just a limb or 3 torn off the survivors. But since every bomb was designed to bring tons of concrete and wood down on all, many survivors remain pinned down, suffering horribly with huge open wounds down to pulverized bones. Least of their troubles. Bombs were also made to spread raging fires. Several of my stories detail what happened to hundreds of thousands in Hiroshima and Nagasaki and hundreds of millions more from World War I to Gaza, booming and burning. The trapped and broken roast alive, faster or slower. That'll teach 'em, those women and children guilty of living under your enemy's leadership. Teach 'em what? That bomb sellers profit from hellfire forced upon everyone's loved ones, innocent and briefly alive. Far worse than just fleshless, nerveless sinner souls frying below, wouldn't you say? Making weaponeers earthly devils to the third power, also torturing the living, grieving their dead loved ones. Look at the Middle East. Hafez Assad, after 800,000 slaughtered, is still bombing his own countrymen, women, and kids to death. Saudi Arabia has pounded Yemen with American bombs for a decade. Israel's revenge for Hamas' murder of 1,200 Jews is to smash uninhabitable Gaza homes of 2 million, killing 35,000. Review how most of war's 300 million died and how many burned alive since 1915. Most mass bombers always had a single plan. My 100,000 big bombs enable me to terrorize most innocents throughout the enemy nation. Smash homes, slaughter, torture, and leave a few grieving millions. Maybe they'll beg the army we need not defeat to surrender. If not, we will fly back to smear their last babies into the rubble. All explosives make formerly human leaders devils and plunge their victims into permanent hell on earth. But hey, at least we win! No, actually, historian Toynbee recounts that 14 straight empires destroyed their own national economies with unproductive weaponeering. Then there every conquering soldier died hideously under a world of infuriated victims' eventual mass counterattack. Another of my speeches details how final self-wrecking is long underway against Empires 15 and 16, American and Russian doomed world conquest attempts. But for the last few years, they still rule all with message madness. Buy our bombs to keep you safe. While all enemies quail, no one need drop a one. Weapons are peace, except for any and all wars we will start. Okay, so we lied. But believe us now, this 1000th war is the war to end all wars. Trust us! So you see, weapons are peace through strength. Except for those 300 million and 700 million slaughtering little hiccups, of course. Wake up, world! Weapons are hell unto doomsday. The only peace is disarmament. Unless you believe that millions would then swarm over your borders with hammers, steak knives, and really sharp fingernails. Most of 2024's 49 wars prove my bombs make devils burn us in hell case. 20 Days in Mariupol is the Ukraine war documentary up for an Academy Award. Of course, Vladimir Putin has been a civilian bomber devil for decades, battering resistant small republics. Like most overarmed superpower bomber bullies, when he targets an enemy city, he follows the same path to conquest. Bomb every inch flat beyond recovery. Homeless victims will crowd by the hundreds, even thousands, into the few remaining big buildings. How can you resist? A few more 2,000-pounders kills them all. The monster did exactly that in Mariupol. Now the perp only has to stroll into the wasteland and concentration camp any remaining slime. Insanely courageous filmmakers spent Mariupol's last 20 days before surrender discussing hell with the victims. Any minutes that roaring bombs let up for another short interview. 50,000 is a conservative death toll estimate. Don't forget the decades of future in store for foreign conquest victims. Brutal, heartless, outside dictator occupation of every victim for years or decades before the invaders are almost certainly finally thrown out. Explosives explode. Ever since the 1300 AD invention of them. Without bombs and guns and artillery, then humans can only talk, accommodate, and love. Easy. I've described Bomber Israel's identical destruction of Gaza. Never will we grant our slaves their own nation, announce 100 leaders. We'll occupy them for decades to block counterattacks we incite. Many other bosses propose driving all the ruined millions into the desert. Their leader's favorite is the Bible story lauding the execution of every Ammonite woman, child, baby, goat, and sheep. God's orders. Right. Bombing, then, begins with years of sadistic hell. The civilian savaging eventually slowing, but still extending to decades of post-conquest, life-wrecking foreign tyranny. Bombs indeed achieve power fulfillment, making not only devils, but enthroning them over hell on earth. Only my laws, yours, God's, humanity's, and your children's will make humanity human again. Never again evil incarnate. Suddenly I hear a question. Steve, when are you going to stop just hemming and hawing and tell us what you really think? Okay, all right. Buckle up.